You know what it is, Tuesday, January 3rd. Give us this day our daily bread. Welcome to Daily Bets with the Spittin Statistician. I am Dane Martinez, the Spittin Statistician, and with me today and most Tuesdays moving forward is my guy Randle Mike Randle. Mike, how you doing today? Obviously, we move forward. It is a day in the sports world where we all obviously have our thoughts and prayers with the Hamlin family and what's going on after what took place in Cincinnati. But sometimes in crises, Mike, we do, we deliver a distraction at times, right? And I think that's what we're going to do today, talking about college basketball. I haven't spoken to you in a couple of weeks, so happy to you. Happy New Year, happy holidays. How you doing, Mike?
Yeah, certainly a sad day last night. Shocked all of us, Dane. So,
Yeah.
today people don't know what to do. So we try to provide a temporary distraction while we're waiting for hopefully prayers up, great news to come and recovery news for Hamlin with what went on last night. But yeah, I haven't talked to you for a while, so we'll dive in and do some things here that may not be as important, certainly on the national landscape right now, but something that can be a small distraction for us here as we wait for some hopeful good news. But Happy New Year's to you, my friend, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. People find comfort sometimes in the entertainment that we provide in the sports world. That's what it is, entertainment. So let's dig on in. We are talking college basketball today, Mike. And, like I said, I haven't spoken to you in a couple of weeks. We're now into the conference schedule, right? A lot of these teams are into their conference schedule. And one of the things I always say, Mike, is we're not just giving you a fish, we're teaching you how to fish. And one of the things I notice when we go to the conference schedule is, boy, do I love underdogs, Mike. I love dogs. I love home dogs. In the conference schedule, it is very tough to win on the road in most conferences, most notably, in my opinion, the Big 12. Is that a fair rule of thumb? I got another one for you, but a lot of times, man, I love home dogs in the conference schedule. Do you concur?
I do concur. I think you have to be a special team right now in the landscape of college basketball to win and cover on the road. We've seen it over and over again. We have one today that I think is special enough to do that. But yes, we saw last night. I put it out here on our TikTok channel. Rutgers going on the road at Purdue. So even Purdue, the number one team in the country who is undefeated, they're playing a team that's hungry. Now, when you take that team that is the underdog and put them at home, it becomes a very monumental task. So absolutely. When I look at these games, Dane, I need a reason. I'm going in taking the home underdog. Give me a reason why I should take the road favorite.
Okay, so fair enough. So our first game, you have apparently found reasons to take a favorite on the road in the Big 12, which is a gauntlet. They're not at Allen Fieldhouse, but you still like the Jayhawks tonight.
I do. I like the Jayhawks at Texas Tech, even though they are a slight favorite on the road. And the reason is I am marrying the math with what I observed for years now watching Kansas. Bill Self is one of handful of coaches that makes that much of a difference. We have seen, Dane, coaches in their first or second year taking over big programs and struggling. John Shire now adjusting at Duke. This year, we have North Carolina with Hubert Davis struggling after an incredible end to the year last year. And Texas Tech, Mark Adams, is in the same situation. They thought coming into this year they were going to have big men who transferred from Utah Valley, Fardaws Imach, coming inside, 6'11", strong, double-double machine. He is out with a broken foot. He is not playing, and they have struggled since then. Their defense is not at an elite level as it has been, and now they're hosting Kansas. This is a classic Bill Self spot. Just like on December 10th, when Kansas traveled to Missouri, undefeated Missouri, and won by about 30 points, tonight you're going to see Kansas on the road get the job done in Lubbock, Texas. Jayhawks, under Bill Self, 24-19, 55.8% last 7 years as a road favorite in conference. Self, 13-10, 56.5% as a road favorite up to 5 points. So we eliminate those games they were favored as, and it could get a backdoor cover by the underdog. Kansas has won 2 of the last 3 at Texas Tech. They have covered those games. Jalen Wilson is a National Player of the Year candidate. They're in these spots. I have seen them, Dane. Kansas gets on the road. They get up
Right.
15-5 timeout. And I think tonight, Texas Tech, it will be packed. They will be excited, but I don't trust their offense enough. And I think Kansas will find a way to get out and cover this number. It's at 1.5. It went up to 2.5. It's back down to 1.5. I will lay it tonight with the Jayhawks. I think they're one of those few exceptions to the rule we just talked about.
Yeah, and we always know the axiom, right, in sports gambling as well. Good teams win, great teams cover. It sounds like you think that Kansas is kind of above that threshold. It helps to have a player of the year candidate in Wilson, like you mentioned, to kind of be one of those teams that can kind of buck the trend or swim against the whirlpool. So I'm going to file that one away come March as well. But Mike, you like another game in which the axiom is proving true. You are taking a home dog in the ACC. And this hurts me because I think I am a Syracuse grad. I am an Orange man at heart, but it looks like you're going against Cuse tonight, taking the home team with a lot of points.
Well, Dane, the deal with Syracuse is at the end of the year is when they're playing their best basketball usually. Right. And that's why Jim Boeheim is a great coach. But early in the year, they have been very up and down. I just don't think at this point in the year, they should be favored by 9.5 points on the road against anyone. Two true road games this year for Syracuse, 1 point win at Notre Dame, 29-point loss at inconsistent Illinois. Cardinals, I have faded them the entire year, but they have been more competitive lately. They beat Western Kentucky at home by 11. They scored 94 points in that game. They lost at NC State by 12 and just lost to Kentucky, but they covered it in both of those games. In fact, Louisville has covered 3 of the last 5. They do have a 3-point scorer, an elite scorer in L. Ellis, who's averaging 17.5 points per game. And Jalen Withers is shooting over 38% from 3-point range, so he can hit some shots against the zone. Do I think Syracuse wins? Yes, I do. But I do not think they're going to win by 10 points. Syracuse played 1-13 Monmouth at home this year, and they won by 15. They didn't cover. So it's just too many points. That's what this is. Syracuse terrible on the defensive boards because of the zone. I think Louisville makes some shots. I think they keep it close. I think Syracuse gets a win, 4 points, 5 points, but does not cover this number tonight.
All right, fair enough. The number at 9.5 is too big for my guy, Mike. Maybe he's saying that just to make me feel a little bit better that Cuse can get the W. He's not taking him outright, but there you go. 9.5, too much against Louisville. Mike, another axiom that I kind of believe in, especially in college basketball or in all college sports, is that the public loves a number in parentheses next to a team's name. Boy, oh boy, do they love it. In college football, you see it happen all the time. In college basketball, you see it happen all the time. I personally, Mike, think that kind of inflates the number because the public sees ranked team against unranked team and just is like, oh, this team is, kind of a tier ahead, markedly better, and they just blindly play those favorites. Before I get into a couple of examples of that tonight on the slate that I know you're kind of going contrarian against, what do you think about that as the rule of thumb? I like to go against those ranked teams in tough conference spots or take points against them. Maybe they win, but remember, just like Kansas, they have to be really great in order to cover. And a lot of these ranked teams, maybe outside the top 5, are not good enough to game in, game out, blow these opponents away and cover the number just because they're ranked in a poll in the top 25. I like fading the parentheses. Mike, what about you?
That's a brilliant point, Dane. And you got it. There's 2 examples I'll give you really quick. On New Year's Day, Vermont, who always plays a brutal non-conference schedule, goes on the road at UMBC, and they're favored by 1. The money's pouring in on UMBC because the records were so different because Vermont has struggled. But there are games that they lost Vermont, like a 1-point loss at USC. That is a great game for Vermont. Vermont won by 10 points going away. And last night, you have number 1 Purdue. They have 1 next to their name. They're undefeated against unranked Rutgers. Well, Rutgers lost 4 games coming into this. Why? Because they've had injury problems, and that's exactly what happened. Last night, you saw over 80% of the bets on Purdue, 90% of the money on Rutgers. So you've hit it on the head. When you see numbers next to names, people want favorites. Number 1, we know that. They like overs, they like favorites, and they like having a ranked team. But you have to go a little deeper, especially right now when teams have a huge difference in non-conference schedule, which could affect their record.
All right, so let's dig into it. I see a couple of examples of this where you are, in fact, putting your money where your mouth is and going against the team with the number in the parentheses. Talk about blue bloods. One of these is Kentucky. They are at home in the SEC tonight, going up against LSU. And once again, you're taking the points.
Yeah, Oscar Tshiebwe, reigning player of the year nationally. Everybody knows him. Who they don't know, Dane, is KJ Williams, the big man inside for LSU. 6'11", came over from Murray State with new head coach Matt McMahon. Tonight, you're going to see Williams battle Tshiebwe inside. Tshiebwe's had some fantastic games, 35-10 against Wake Forest and 3 double-doubles in his last 5 games. Kentucky will be without sharpshooter CJ Frederick, one of the greatest three-point shooters we have in college basketball, because he has the broken hand and he's going to be out. So you have a limited Kentucky team, not as deep as normal, that isn't going to be able to shoot as well, that has struggled with consistency all year. Wildcats just 4-9 against the spread this year. LSU isn't much better, 5-8, but the Tigers are coming off a outright home win as 4-point underdogs to Arkansas. Again, too many points. LSU, good defensive team with a player who can limit the big inside in Tshiebwe and KJ Williams, provided he stays out of foul trouble, which he has this year. I think it's too many points. I'm taking LSU to keep it close. We've seen Kentucky struggle early in the year. They usually get it right with Calipari at the end, but right now I think it's double digits. No way, not in the SEC against LSU.
You know, it's interesting. You talk about a team like Kentucky, how they get better. They have so many kind of one and done young studs. It takes time for them to gel. We talked about Syracuse a little bit as well. Learning the 2-3 zone to play it at its highest level takes time throughout the season. So I like the way you're thinking. Some of these teams may be much bigger of a threat when we turn the calendar over to March. There is another top 10 team at home with that number in the parentheses. You're going against them. This one back to the Big 12. Texas Longhorns are, I believe, 8.5-point favorites, but you like Kansas State in this one. Tell me why.
Yeah, I got it last night, 10.5, and it's dropping.
Ooh,
So here we're getting the
okay.
closing line value that I want. Keontae Johnson, get some good vibes going here, Dane. One, maybe the best story in college basketball this year. Of course, he had the scary collapse when he was at Florida back in 2020, but he has recovered. He transferred to Kansas State to get a fresh start, averaging 17.7 points per game, 6.8 rebounds, 42% from three-point range. With Texas, I believe, Dane, and I've said this to you every time I come on the show, coaching matters. Rodney Terry has stepped in for Chris Beard. God bless him. It's a rough spot. He's done a good job, but Texas is now just 6-7 against the number, and they started 4-1, which means they're 2-6 against the spread in their last 8 games. They had a battle to beat Rice at home a few weeks ago. Kansas State played West Virginia, and I will sum up why I like Kansas State in this rationale. They played West Virginia at home. The first here, Big 12 opener for them. They're playing well. Here comes their first test. What happens? They're down 17-3 to West Virginia at home. How do you assess that game? I assess it as a gutsy comeback that they came back to beat West Virginia and win at home. I think they're ready to go here. You have two teams that both play defense, that both can rebound, mirror images of each other. I think Kansas State can win this game outright. It is almost exactly like last night's game with Purdue and Rutgers. It's going to be a one-possession game. Johnson is the best player on the floor tonight. I am taking Kansas State plus 8.5. I got it at 10.5. I still like it at 8.5.
All right, if you like the Wildcats to potentially win outright, then 8.5 is certainly too many points. I like that you throw in there, though, Mike, that you got it at 10.5, always getting the best of the number. That's why you got to go on over to FTN Bets, check out all of our content, and get that closing value, get the best of the number whenever you can. So, Mike, here's the deal. Here on Daily Bets, I have, everyone come on, talk NBA, you with college basketball, the NFL, whatever it is, right? And I like to kind of trust the experts that join me here on Daily Bets. One of them last week was Chris Meany, who, you and I both know well, came on out here, gave me some NHL props, but I wanted to try to impress him. Right. And so I was putting together my own NHL prop, and I told him what I was targeting, who I was attacking, and we built something that wound up hitting as an 8-1 same game parlay. Now, I don't necessarily think that I'm the smartest guy in the room, but what I do like to do is listen to the smart guys and gals in the room. So I love, Mike, that you kind of validated my I love home dogs in conference play, that you validated I'm down to fade the teams with little numbers in their parentheses. I was going to think about going against Kansas. But you said that Kansas was a team that kind of deserves to be above that threshold, that can handle those obstacles. I see another game on the slate tonight, Mike, where I have a top 15 team with the number in their parentheses. They're going on the road in conference, and they are 5.5-point favorites to do so. And they're doing it against a team that is 10-4. They're doing so against the team that has won their last 4 games, Mike. I'm talking about Virginia and Pittsburgh. Talk to me about this one, because for me, it sets up to take Pittsburgh plus like the 5.5 points. Pitt has won their last 4, even against Cuse and Carolina that we've talked about. Virginia, they don't seem to me to be a team that blows out many people. They're a tight kind of defensive team going on the road in conference, and that's another quality yet unranked team. For me, all these conditions would be to take that home dog. That would be Pittsburgh. How crazy am I if I wanted to make that play?
You're okay. You're not crazy. We did not talk about this, folks. So this is great.
No, we didn't.
Off my head reaction.
This is absolutely authentic.
Yes, you are not crazy, except I need to know, and I've been burned and helped a couple times, Dane, with the last-minute players being out or a player out who is supposed to return. If John Hughley, the big forward inside for Pittsburgh, comes back, I think you're going to see this line drop. Now, if Hughley does not play tonight again, 6'9", dominant inside, double-double machine, I am going to take Virginia. I did look at this game. It is very difficult, but you're right. The way to play Virginia is to slow them down and battle them. And you saw Virginia struggle at Miami, but then they went against Georgia Tech, a team that's inferior to Pittsburgh, no doubt about it, and they were able to get that comfortable cover. I believe in Virginia. They are 2-1 in conference. I believe they're going to win the ACC. So I don't think they stumble here tonight against Pittsburgh. But if Hughley comes back, this number is going to drop, and I think you got a good number there. So that's why I stayed away, because I just don't want to get burned by laying the 5.5, hearing he comes back at 6:30. It drops to 3.5, and Virginia gets a last-second win. But yes, I am not against it. It's just to stay away from me, because I do like Virginia a lot. They lost one game. Are they going to start 2-2 in conference? No, I don't think so. So the question is, how do you feel about the 5.5?
Right. And, to be quite honest, I also see a total in that game that's around 125, 126. That is a lower total game. These are slower teams. And to be quite honest, when I see 2 lower paced, kind of half-court set defensive-minded teams, and I see that low total, the 5.5 points can become all that much more important, right? This is not like the 8.5 or the 10.5 that we see with some of those more high-flying, open kind of teams in a tight, what could be defensive struggle. And I say that because the total is, 20 points lower than some of the other games we've talked about here this afternoon. That makes the 5 or 6 points really important. But I respect what you're saying. We got to see if Hughley is back for Pittsburgh or not, and that really can swing it one way or the other. So make sure, if you're looking to bet this game, that you get the updated kind of availability that'll come out at around 5 or 6 o'clock Eastern this evening. But thank you, Mike. I mean, you're helping me. Like I said, we're not just giving you a fish, we're teaching people how to fish. At least the conditions were potentially right there for another home dog. We'll get the availability a little bit later on. But thanks, as always, for joining the show, Mike. I mean, when we get into it, more conference games we're going to have, more games where I am going to be likely to fade the ranked team to take the home dogs. But just be sure to check me on it, just like you did today, just in case I'm missing a piece of information. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds good. We got some great games tonight here, Dane. So hopefully prayers, good thoughts keep going today, and we can sit back with a distraction and enjoy some really good, solid college basketball battles, because before you know it, college basketball is going to be front and center with March Madness, of course, one of the greatest sporting events of the year.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. As soon as the Super Bowl is done, we all turn our attention to the round ball on the court. We'll be deep into conference basketball at that point, and we're going to have my guy, Mike Randle, joining me every Tuesday moving forward to really cover the college basketball season and give you all the insight you need to track and nail those bets. Your bank balance will certainly thank us. So tomorrow on the show, we're going to talk a little NBA with our guy, Kyle Murray. He does all the NBA projections for for us over at FTN Bets. He's been very hot lately, so make sure you come on back and tune in for that. We'll have Mike back with us next Tuesday to talk a little bit of college basketball. But for my man, Mike Randle, I am merely the Spittin Statistician, Dane Martinez. As Mike said, on today, we're in the sports world. Our primary focus is, of course, the thoughts and prayers and hopeful for good news when it comes to the Hamlin situation that happened on Monday Night Football. Hopefully, this has been a small distraction and one that you could be profitable with. This is today's episode of Daily Bets. We'll see you tomorrow here on FTN Bets. We're out of here. Peace.